You guys again? Detling said to read A Tale of Two Cities, so I'm trying to read A Tale of Two Cities. Some Dickens. You guys are all up in my Dickens. Making me do this again. Game face on. Alright, everybody. Let's see what we got here. Adjust some things. Get myself too close. Too close. Alright, everyone. Welcome to the Tonto's Demise Week 4 recap. Special edition because Week 4 is technically still taking place as I speak. And, well, the matchups are all decided unless all sorts of miracles happen in the fourth quarter of this Raiders-Chargers game, which I don't think is going to happen. Safe to say the outcomes are decided at this point, so it's pretty safe to do the review. I'm bored, trying to think of something to do here. Not watching the game, I have no interest in the game anyway, really. Matchup's over, and not too long ago, got rid of my cable because I realized I almost never turn my TV on anymore, and it wasn't worth paying all that money for something I don't use. So I just have internet now, and I have Peacock, which I am able to watch the Sunday night games on. And other than that, I stream them on the Yahoo Sports app if I feel like watching them, if I do watch them. But I'm disappointed because you can no longer AirPlay from my phone to my Apple TV. I don't know if it's just because my Apple TV device is too old, because they took a bunch of apps off of my Apple TV. YouTube was taken off of there because they said my Apple TV device was too old and no longer relevant. My iMac that we're talking to here, I can't update it properly because it's too old now. I'm always getting the little notifications up here that updates can't not be installed, and I tried to figure out why, over and over again, they're not being installed. Guess what? My computer here is too old to support the updates currently. So I got this computer in 2012, 2013, quite a while now, so I guess that makes sense. But it's still kind of annoying. So we'll see. As long as I can still do this stuff on here and whatever I need to do. Other than that, everything's okay. But I keep talking about me and all this stuff that you guys, I guarantee the two of you who are paying any attention don't give a shit about. So what are we actually talking about here? All right. What happened in week 4? Gets me to thinking, what should be the photo for this week's video? I'm not even entirely certain yet. I'll have to figure that out as I'm uploading the review here. Just for, if anyone can confirm, as I'm looking at the matchups here, what exactly is Ed's avatar there? Does it, I can only see the CK and the ME. Maybe that's a T in there? Is it? And I don't know what that logo is. It looks like I don't even know what that is, like a life preserver or something. I'm assuming the first word is fuck. The second word, I don't know, meth? Fuck meth? Fuck men? I don't know what you're trying to get at there. Ed, whatever floats your boat. Disappointed. however, that the Bud Light Lime is gone because I had an avatar lined up for you all for this year in relation sort of to your Bud Light Lime, but I guess it's not there anymore. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll just stick with the one I was going to go with. But look, I've already wasted 5.5 minutes of your time. I don't think we had any serious injuries this week to talk about. Maybe David Montgomery might be out for a little bit. Looking at everybody's teams, I don't think. Garoppolo went out for a little bit, but that didn't change too much. He might be out for a little while. Other than that, really no big serious things going on, which fortunately, that's always good. Not complaining about that for anybody. So yeah, let's get into the matchups and see what is happening, what is going to happen, and how things are going to shake up here, finishing week 4. As we head into week 5, which would put us approximately a third of the way through the season. First up, as always, we talk about the defending champions. This year, it's the Springfield Isotopes. So I get to talk about myself first, and trying to defend their championship. Looks like going up against Hillbillies on PCP this week, who was 0-3, trying to avoid going 0-4. Topes trying to get back to 500 at 2-2. Unable to do it this week as the Hillbillies avoid 0-4 and knock off the Topes 170.7 to 159.6. Despite 2 zeros, not one, but 2 zeros in the Hillbillies starting lineup. Basically, one play decided this matchup, and that was the 75-yard touchdown to Deebo Samuel, which that was, or even actually his second touchdown might have been the one that pushed it over, because that pushed him over 150 yards, so that's a 3-point bonus. Touchdown catch, that's 7. There's 10 points there, plus the yardage. In the matchup, said you won by 11.1. So yeah, basically that last touchdown catch was enough. Maybe a little bit something else from Harris there. But anyway, let's review what happened. Burrow goes for 53.8. Kind of confused sometimes when I listen to the podcast, or as this week we watched the podcast. You guys seem, sometimes it baffles me how, and this is going to come up in unfinished business, I'm sure, but I wonder, like, how do you guys not know, like, what's going on with the league and teams and like that? Like, wondering why I have Marvin Jones in the lineup this week. Was it, somebody suggested, was it so that you wouldn't start Trevor Lawrence, or didn't want you? I actually would have preferred you start Trevor Lawrence. I didn't want you to start Burrow, but I basically had to start Marvin Jones because T. Higgins was out. Deontay, big question mark on him, whether or not he was going to play this week. Turns out he did. If I could have done it again, probably would have liked to have swapped him out, put Deontay in there, a wide receiver, and maybe somebody else in there in the flex spot, but it's not the way it went. But yeah, it's just, you guys seem confused why Marvin Jones was in there, but didn't click that Deontay Johnson and T. Higgins were both injured and probably out. Not really. It just kind of confuses me there that you guys sometimes, and it's been going on forever, that you guys just kind of miss that stuff. Blame it on the baby, I guess. It's Grogan's fault. But anyway. Right, Burrow, 58.3, and the big factor here in this matchup, Deebo Samuel with that long touchdown bonus, he actually goes for 41.7. So nearly 100 points just from those two guys. Tyler Boyd, 21. Chark, one of your zeros. He is now done for the year. A quiet game from Kamara. 0 catches. All rushing yards. He gets you 15 points for going over 100. He gets you 120 plus the bonus, so 15. Carson, only 4. Hawkinson, 8. Najee Harris, 21.1 in the flex there. Your other 0 was Gold, who somehow got injured in pre-games or in the warm-ups or kickoff or something. And they were using their punter to try and make kicks or something like that in that game. But anyway, he got you 0. Steelers defense, they got you, I think the matchup, I didn't have to do anything to correct the scores on this matchup because they were both correct. Yahoo says 9. Steelers defense scored you 9. And the 170.7, enough to get past the Isotopes. Stafford goes for 47. Receivers, Devontae, Ridley, and Marvin Jones, 12.5, 15, and 5.5, respectively. Devontae and Ridley, really. I think that's going to they're going to be the pair that either sinks my ship for this year. Those are my top 2 picks. Or they are going to come around and help me rise back up and maybe get into the playoffs here. Usually, that's how it goes. More often than not, the Topes find a way to back themselves into a playoff spot here. But now we're going to be 1-3, going up and then have to go up against Detling. Probably going to be 1-4 next week. So digging a deep hole here early on in the season. But yeah, those 2 guys are just playing mediocre football. Whatever it is, just can't. Said that my team's fortunes are going to live and die by those 2 guys, more or less, this year, I think. And so far, it's not looking too good in terms of trying to defend our championship title. Running backs, Edmonds and Sermon. Edmonds goes for 21, Sermon 9. Gesicki, 16.7. In the flex, went with Deontay. He got 24.2. McManus, kicker, only got 1 point. No field goals for Denver against Baltimore this week. Kind of surprised me. I'd have to go back and look because I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure if I had just stuck with Rodrigo, I might have actually won this matchup. Dolphins defense, Yahoo says 8. That is correct. They scored 8. So yeah, after that big Thursday night performance from Burrow and Boyd, and I only got 5 points from Marvin Jones, said you had almost 75 points. Right out of the gate there from Burrow and Boyd. Helped you that Higgins didn't play. Said I was watching to see whatever quarterback you started. Then if you had put in, I would have put Higgins in if he had played, since you were starting Burrow. If you had started Lawrence, I definitely would have started Marvin Jones, which I ended up having to do. Anything else? Just kind of... So the funny thing about this matchup, and I can talk about it a little bit more, obviously, because it's the one I paid the most attention to, but said you jumped out to that 70-some point lead, and I'm just watching. And so I had a lot of people in the second half of the Sunday games, and like getting closer. So I think I said on the lineup there, just creeping up on you, just slowly chipping away at that lead there, Brian. And I think Stafford threw a touchdown there near the end of that game. And I just pulled ahead, because I was pretty sure that our D scores, you actually, I think Pittsburgh's defense only scored 6. And your long touch, which Yahoo said 9, so I actually had to take those points away from you, which basically canceled out Debo's long touchdown, which made our scores on Yahoo correct. So I was pretty sure that I had the scores correct, because our kickers didn't kick anything. No field goals, so no extra fractional points there. So yeah, I had just creeped ahead of you by I'm looking at the following the Rams game there. And I'm and Stafford threw a touchdown, and I'm like, yes, I should be up by 2 or 3 points now. Go back to the fantasy app and look at our matchup. And so suddenly you're winning by 10 points. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? It was in my hands, and poof. As soon as I got it, you took it away. Debo and Najee Harris both scored touchdowns in garbage time of those games and secure the victory for you, knocking me down, Topes down to 1-3. We're both 1-3 now. After this matchup, not sure what place we're going to be in because the week is not decided yet. But anyway, Hillbillies, they will be 1-3, as will the Isotopes at 1-3. All right, what do we got next? We got Dub C versus CMC. A lot of C's in these names. And Dub C was also looking to avoid going 0-4. And he is able to do it this week thanks to CMC Music Factory scoring single digits pretty much up and down his lineup. He has Brian Edwards, the Raiders wide receiver, playing right now. But as they're starting to get close to being fourth quarter, near the end of the third, he still has 0 points there. So looks like you're not going to get the 45 points that you needed from him to cover your deficit there. Currently, we've got, Dub C Hooligans, their score will be 157.7. Current score for CMC is 115.9. Actually, I don't know. I gotta look here because these scores might be a little bit. I don't think when I actually look at the matchups, it doesn't factor in the point adjustments. So I actually have to look at the main Yahoo page here, or the app. Actually, CMC's current score is 116.3, not the 115.9 there. So a little bit different. Dub C, practically an entire new roster for him. Patrick Mahomes goes for 57.5. Receivers, Amari Cooper, one of the few same players on your team here. He gets you 16, although he did go in and out of that game. He only had 3 catches. I think he had a bit of a hamstring problem, what is going on with hamstrings here these first couple weeks of the year? All these receivers going down with hamstring injuries. And because you traded a bunch of guys, it looks like you were forced to start Will Fuller, who got you 1 catch for 6 yards, and now he's out for several weeks in typical Will Fuller fashion. Although, more like typical Will Fuller fashion would probably have been if he had scored like 45 points this week, and then that would be it for the next 6 weeks. He got you 1.6. Hollywood Brown, another new guy on your team. I think Will Fuller has been there this whole time. I'm pretty sure you drafted him, but he was riding the bench until now. Looks like you got Crowder there on your bench. You have a Baltimore receiver coming back from IR at some point here. If Will Fuller is going to be out, you're probably going to either pick somebody up, or you can plug in Crowder there. And you've also got Rieger in the flex. Hollywood, he went for 19. Montgomery went for 25.5, just over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. But he injured his knee. Extent of the severity of that injury yet to be determined, so we'll see what happens there. You might be without him for a couple weeks now. Fortunately, looks like Mitchell might be coming back for you for the 49ers there. Kareem Hunt, 16.5, newly acquired. Kelsey, 6.3. I think, did Rieger come from? I can't remember if you had him previously, or did he come from? I think you traded for. I think Gags took. I'm pretty sure Gags drafted him, so he must have come from another team. Rieger, 3 points in the flex there. Weird for a receiver to get almost half of his points from rushing stats there. Only 1 catch from him. Kicker Koo, a short field goal, a couple PATs. He gets you about 5.5. And then your Washington football team defense finally wins a game. It gets you some points there. They got to do that long touchdown bonus for a kickoff return. But I think everything else So you got that. You got the points for the win, but like everything else, I don't know if Yahoo is correct. Did we adjust your score? Okay. Did I say 157 for Dub C? I'm getting this all sorts of out of sorts because of these. I'm looking at it afterwards and the adjustments haven't made. So Dub C, his real score is 170.2. 170.2, which is about 15 points higher than what Yahoo says. So your score for your defense must have been about 22 or so for Washington's defense there. And it was enough, that 170, enough to get past the CMC this week. Even though he has Kyler Murray, he goes for almost 50 points. It's all downhill from there. Mike Evans, 14.5. Edwards currently with 0 still, end of the third quarter. Tim Patrick, 7 points. Javonte Williams from Denver, 9 points. Hubbard, in for the injured McCaffrey, also 9 points. Tunyon, 2.8. Michael Carter in the flex, 10.5. Matt Gay, Rams kicker, he gets you about 7.5. And then played the Titans defense this week. Probably a better play than the Rams. That was a tough matchup against the Cardinals, and they actually did get beat pretty bad there. But so did Tennessee. Yahoo says 7. And Justin, I think we didn't really move you up anything except for extra kicker points there. So I believe Yahoo's score for the Tennessee defense is correct at 7. So Dub C, he will avoid going 0-4. He's going to be 1-3, while CMC Music Factory is going to drop to 500. He will be 2-2. All right, so last week we had a possible scenario where it could have played out that 6 teams in the league, half the league, could end up being 1-3 after this week. Well, we got it because Hillbillies beat the Isotopes. Both of those teams are now 1-3. Dub C is going to beat CMC. That'll make him 1-3. So there's 3 teams right there. That's 3 out of 6 that we were working on. Next matchup is officially decided. We got Disco versus Gags to Riches. And if Gags to Riches lost this matchup, he would drop to 1-3. That would be a 4th team at 1-3 after 4 weeks here. And that is what is going to happen. So both teams from last year's Tonto Bowl, starting off the season, 1-3 in their defense, trying to get back to the Tonto Bowl. Not looking so good so far here in 2021. Current score, looks like we got Disco. He is bumped up. He was actually down by about a point going into Monday night, thanks to pretty much entirely to the Buffalo Bills defense. They scored a whopping 60 points, shutting out the Texans. 60 points from Buffalo's defense this week. I think that's their second shutout of the year already, which ballooned Gags' score all the way up to 192, even though he made controversial, I guess, trading away Mahomes and Kelsey earlier. Still puts up a score that would have beat most of us this week. But Disco, he's already at 208.65, so he's gotten about 17 points from his 2 guys going tonight, Waller and Williams. Gags' score is 192.45. So like I said, Disco, he's currently got 208.65. Currently, Mike Williams, they're just starting the 4th quarter here. Mike Williams has 2. Waller has an even 15 currently. So his quarterback, Hurts, goes for 67. Tyreek Hill pops off again like he did week 1. He popped off in week 1, took week 2 off, took week 3 off, pops off in week 4. Will that be a trend? Will he score 5 points each of the next 2 weeks and then 50 in week 7. If that's the trend, we'll see what happens here. But that's how it's going so far. Yeah, what did Tyreek score in week 1? Actually, he scored 40, in week 1. And then 6, and then 9, and now 50.5. So, yeah. So let's see. That's almost 118 points. Almost 118 just from Hurts and Tyreek this week. Which you needed those points because Godwin only 8.5. Sid Williams currently at 2. Jonathan Taylor, actually not too bad. He goes over 100 yards and a touchdown. 23.5. Fournette, 16.8. Sid Waller currently at 15. Beckham Jr. in the flex, only 5 points from him. Prater, your kicker, several field goals and several PATs. He gets to you about 14. And then the New Orleans Saints defense, Yahoo says 6. I think it was right around there because you're not bumped up too much from what Yahoo says for you. So yeah, I'm just gonna get the defenses all sorts of screwed up if I don't know exactly what they are for the matchups this week, but it doesn't really make a difference. Gag's team, he is finished going into Monday night here. Said what was his score? 192.45. Let's see, he had Kirk Cousins go for 31. Robbie Anderson, 10. DK Metcalf, 16.5. KJ Osborne, 6.5. James Robinson, 20.5. Zach Moss, 12. Knox, your new tight end with Gronk out. Looks like he actually might be out for a little while now. Maybe good that I didn't trade for him, I guess. Because I think he broke some ribs. It's going to be out for, I think he might have punctured his lung, they said. He might be out for a little while here. But pick up Knox, plug him in, and he scores you 2 touchdowns. 20.7. Aguilar in the flex, 9 points. Butker, all PATs, 6 points from him. And once again, Buffalo's defense goes for it. Yahoo says 33. Actual score was 60. But yeah, all for naught, unfortunately. Wasn't enough to get past Disco, who said he got big scores from Tyreek and his quarterback. Everything else, said putting him up over 200 points for the week. Unfortunately, Gags, it is what it is. Just how it goes. Plus, Gags, you got a lot of... half your starters are out with injuries right now. Guys you'd normally be starting your wide receiver core currently. I mean, you got Gronk. Josh Jacobs actually came back and played tonight, so you'll probably be putting him in the flex side. I see no reason going forward why your running backs would not be Robinson, Moss, and Jacobs going forward, unless there's some sort of injury. But those are the only 3 running backs on your entire roster, actually, looking at it right now. So, be interesting to see how you play it there. So you've got Gallup on IR, but you're loaded at the wide receivers. AJ Brown out for a little while. You got Brown and Shepard, both those guys out for a little while with hamstring injuries. Gronk out for a little while. But said unfortunately you're going to be 1-3 after this week. Once you get all those guys back and healthy and starting, I mean, once they all come back, your starting lineup's going to be solid. There's no questioning about that. The question is, will it be too little, too late? Waiting for those guys, Shepard, Brown, hamstring injuries. That can take a while. Metcalf's got a Q by his name. Robbie Anderson, KJ Osborne. Talk about hit or miss. Boom or bust guys there. Being forced to start Aguilar this week. Yeah, it's just not a good spot here for Gags these first couple weeks of the season, and getting through these next couple weeks, trying not to already get basically knocked from playoff contention before your lineup can get back to full strength here. So Gags this week, he will drop to 1-3, while Disco, he will remain undefeated. He will be 4-0, I should say. All right, next up, we have, let's see, another team trying to avoid going 1-3. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth team to be 1-3 after this week, and that is going to happen because one of the teams in this matchup was definitely going to be 1-3. Ed Lager versus Shawshank Athletics. That would be our fifth one, and it is going to be Shawshank Athletics after this week. Ed Lager, he is up to 200, I see right now. 200.15 with Keenan Allen, I believe, playing currently, while Shawshank has Herbert going currently. But going into this matchup tonight, Ed had like an 80-some point lead. So there wasn't too much that Shawshank, even with Herbert, was going to be able to do, especially since Ed has one of Herbert's receivers there. Definitely think the numbers were not in your favor. Let's see. So currently, said Ed Lager was at about just over 200, 200.15. Currently, Josh has 153.15. For Ed, he picked up and plugged in Sam Darnold. 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, over 300 yards. He gets you 61.5 points from Sam Darnold in a shootout with the Cowboys there. His receivers, so currently Keenan Allen, 9.2. Basically the same scores currently for all 3 of your wide receivers. Keenan, Cooks, and Allen Robinson. Allen, 9.2. Cooks, 9.7. Robinson, 9.3. Saquon pops off for almost 30 points this week, 29.5. 2 touchdowns, 1 rushing, 1 in the air, 5 catches, 70-some yards. So about 120 total yards for him, almost 30 points. Other running backs, Swift goes for 9, Fant goes for 16.5, Gibson 15.5. Your kicker, Bass from Buffalo. Field goal bonanza for him this week. Mostly short ones though. Let's see, he had 4 total. Most of them were 20-yarders though. Yahoo says 13. He probably got you about 15, actually, 14.5. 15 points there with so many field goals. And that Chicago Bears defense, hit or miss, back and forth on you. Said they hit in even weeks apparently, and they miss in the even or odd numbered weeks here. So, weeks 2 and week 4 to do good for you. Week 1 and week 3, not much at all. Yahoo says 16. I believe with the current bump, they must have gotten you about 25 or 26. But yeah, let's see. Ed is currently a little bit over 200 there. Enough to get past Shawshank. Let's see. Herbert currently has 45.25. Just over 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. His receivers, Kupp, Jefferson, and Chase. 11.5, 20.5, 13.5. Edwards-Helaire and Dalvin Cook. 22.5 for Edwards-Helaire and only 6.5 for Cook. Andrews, 11.7. Pittman in the flex, 11.9. Joseph, you picked him up, I think, fairly recently. The Vikings kicker. So 3 Vikings in your starting lineup. Jefferson, Cook, and now their kicker. Unfortunately, they only scored 7 points, and he kicked you 1 PAT. Chiefs defense, Yahoo says 3. Based on, I think that might have been correct. You might have got a little bit more than that based on the bump there, because Yahoo says you have 148. You currently have 154, so about 6 extra points for your defense there, for the Chiefs defense. So that would be 9 points or so. But yeah, somebody in this matchup was going to drop to 1-3. Unfortunately, it's going to be Shawshank Athletics. Ed Logger is going to move up to 2-2. Keenan Allen just bumped up a little bit there to 10.5, and Herbert to 48.1. But again, the difference, there's only 9 minutes left in the game. This matchup is not going, the outcome is decided. It's a 45 point difference there. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Next up, Possum Magic versus Biscuits and Porn. Possum Magic trying to stay undefeated. Biscuits and Porn trying to get to 3-1. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. He's going to fall to 2-2. While Possum Magic is going to stay undefeated. Currently, his score, Possum Magic 192.2. His team is done, so we're good there. I believe Biscuits actually has a team or player going. Excuse me. I think Jared Cook is playing for you right now. You currently have 163.95, so still about a 30-point difference here. So this matchup is definitely decided. Actually, wow, Cook's got you 19 points there. Possum Magic. Russell Wilson goes for 40. Scary Terry goes for 2 touchdowns, 120 yards, 30.3 points this week. Diggs, another solid performance, 18.5. Touchdowns aren't really coming for him this year, but he has been putting up solid catch and receiving yardage for you. Pretty consistent there. 18.5. Thielen, 7.5. Chubb and Mixon. Chubb actually goes right to 100 yards, gets you that bonus just barely. 14.5 points. Mixon, 13.5, and now he's got an ankle injury, I believe. He is Q next to him there. They're calling him day-to-day. I thought it said week-to-week earlier. So we'll see. Mixon, long history of injuries there, so we will see what happens with him going forward. Higbee, your tight end, he's also got a Q next to his name now. Didn't really see. He's got an ankle issue also. I believe they play Thursday night. You also have Logan Thomas, who actually, he's hurt. I believe he has a hamstring injury as well. Expected to be, I see, he's week to week. So that might be an issue here for you coming up. Trying to find a tight end to play for you here this week in week 5. But Higbee got you 7.5 points. In the flex there, you played Myers, the wide receiver from the Patriots. He actually had 2 completions for 45 yards to go with his 8 catches for 70. He gets you 19.25. Kicker, Suck Up, made several field goals. He missed one. He got you about 13 points. And then the Cleveland Browns defense, Yahoo says 11, but you're bumped up to almost from 174 to 192. So you got about an 18-point bump, I would say. Your kicker got you a lot of extra fractional points there. So actual score for the Browns defense was probably about 28 or 29, pushing you close to 200, so over 190. And it's going to be enough to knock off Biscuits and Porn this week. He will fall to 2-2, and Possum Magic will be 4-0. The other team here, final matchup, trying to stay undefeated, and it is not going to happen this week. Although it looks like you're giving it all you got here, because all you had left. This matchup is Saquon and 8 so versus Yinzer Jags. Saquon was done. He had 204.1 points, and all Yinzer Jags had left was Eckler. And by the looks of it, Eckler must be close to 30 points. Let's take a look here. Yeah, he's got 27. He's got 2 touchdowns, almost 100 yards rushing. He's over 100, over 120 total yards here. So yeah, he's at 27. Giving it the old college try. But yeah, you're still down by 23 points with not much time left. 5 minutes left in the game now. So don't think that's going to happen for you. He would need to get all the way up to 50. Just not going to happen. So, unfortunately, Yinzer Jags will not be joining Disco and Possum Magic, remaining undefeated. He's going to drop to 3-1. While this would have been another matchup that could have been another 1-3. This would have almost everything fell into place to have our 6 1-3 teams, but Saquon, it ain't so, said it 1-3 will not be so, and he is going to be 2-2 after this week. His team is done. He had Rodgers go for 46.5. Was kind of surprised. Said you didn't play Dak. Ended up actually being the better play. Only a 4-point difference there, 3.5 or so. So definitely wouldn't swing the matchup one way or the other. You still would have won with Dak in there. So the Carolina defense, I guess, is the reason you didn't want to play them. The Steelers defense, they very well could have been just as tough, I think, against Aaron Rodgers. A lot of their guys who were injured came back and played for the Steelers defense this week. Definitely made a bit of a difference. They almost got that special teams touchdown, blocked kick touchdown, that I think a lot of people did not think that they jumped off sides on there. But unfortunately, they did get called on that, and it ended up not happening here. But anyway, you went with Rodgers. He got you 46.5. Your receivers, Lockett, Chenault, and Corey Davis. Surprisingly, Lockett is the least productive here. He goes for only 6.5, while Chenault got you an even 17 on Thursday night. And then revenge game for Corey Davis against his former team, Tennessee. He goes only catches 4 passes, but takes him over 100 yards and gets a touchdown, 21.1. Derrick Henry, 28.7. Another solid performance from him. Henderson, you're the running back from the Rams. He gets you 16.5. Pitts, your tight end, goes for 9. Emmanuel Sanders in the flex, 13. Tucker, your kicker, goes for about 12 or 13. 12.5, 13 points, something around there. And then the Colts defense, Yahoo says 15. But with the bump, you said you're already over 200 to 204. So that's about a 18-point difference, I'm going to say. So the Colts defense must have actually got you like 30 or 33, something like that. But yeah, it's going to be enough to get you past Yinzer Jags. He has Allen going for 41.5 points this week. Didn't really have to do too much. They clobbered the Texans 40-0. Hopkins, 10.5. Robert Woods, a touchdown from him this week, 14.8. Maybe he's not completely dead to you yet. DJ Moore, 2 touchdowns. You're probably your new favorite guy. DJ Moore, 2 more touchdowns this week, 32 points from him. Said Eckler, 2 touchdowns. He's got you 27 currently. Now we got Jamal Williams, 66 yards, 6.6. Kittle, 4 for 40. So 8 points there. He's got a Q next to his name too, but no update there, so it must not be anything too serious. On the flex, Courtland Sutton, 7.7. You picked up and played the Bengals kicker. He missed a field goal, made a field goal, had a couple PATs. I think he got you 5.5 points. And then the Tampa Bay defense, a couple turnovers, a couple sacks there. Yahoo says 16. Let's see. They say you have 169. You have 181. So about a 12-point difference, I'm going to say, for your defense, which would make it 28 approximately for the Tampa Bay defense. But it's not going to be enough for Yinzer Jags this week. As said, as Saquon is over 200 at 204, and you are currently at 181.8, unless Eckler somehow scores like 3 touchdowns in the last 2 minutes of that game. You are going to drop to 3-1, while Saquon, it ain't so, will be 2-2. The only thing that's definite, other definite thing, let's see, Bryan Edwards, for CMC. He's got 1 catch for 4 yards now. But unfortunately, CMC, you will, based on the scores, you will definitely be the team who gets eliminated from the knockout pool this week. So the first 4 teams to go are the Isotopes, the WC Hooligans, the Hillbillies on PCP, and said CMC Music Factory just barely avoided getting knocked out last week. This week, they do get knocked out. So they will be eliminated from the knockout pool here. So, all right, after this week, let's see. Disco with his 208 points. Looks like he's going to jump back into first place. The Injured Jags will drop to 3-1. Possum Magic will be in second place. Just looking at the standings here real quick. Biscuits will be 2-2. CMC will be 2-2. Shawshank 1-3. Gags 1-3. Saquon 2-2. The Topes 1-3. Ed Lager 2-2. Hillbillies and Dub C both 1-3. So outside of the top 3 teams, which will continue to be Disco, Possum, and Yinzer Jags, 2 4-0s and 1 3-1. The other 9 of us will either be 2-2 or 1-3 after this week. So the difference between 12th place and 4th place is only going to be 1 game. So even if you're 1-3, you're right there. If you're 1-3, let's see, we're gonna have 1, 2. There'll be 4 teams that are 2-2, right? Ed, Jay, Justin, and Biscuits. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7. So there will be 5 teams that are 1-3, 4 teams that are 2-2. So basically, the difference between 4th place and 12th place is only going to be 1 game. The points differentials are starting to separate, though. The guys down at the bottom here are trailing by over 100 or some points from the guys in first place. Currently, before we count these stats for week 4, the point totals, I should say, so a couple of the guys at the bottom were still below 500. Nobody is over 600 yet. Obviously, they will be tonight. After tonight, Disco will be pushing close to 800 after tonight's game. Possum Magic, he'll be over 700 easily. Yinzer Jags, probably close. So a lot of these guys are going to jump up to being close to 800. While some of the rest of us are going to be in like the 6s and 7s. So, like, just looking at my score, the Topes here, we're at 501. So we're going to be at 660. So it's at Disco, he's going to be almost to 800. Probably over 100 points ahead. So yeah, things are starting to separate in terms of the point totals, which definitely will come into play as things move along, unless the standings start to separate a little bit more. But yeah, even if you're down there, you're down, but you're not out, which is I'm included in that group. So let's see, let's take a peek here. What's going to come up in week 5? Will there be a baby coming this week? I don't know. And of course, we've got Yinzer Jags versus the Springfield Isotopes, the week that Baby Duckling might be coming around. So that will be interesting. Said could knock the Topes to 1-4. Biscuits versus CMC, both of those guys are 2-2. So someone is going to move up, someone's going to move down. Disco, trying to stay undefeated, he'll go against Shawshank. So he's now 1-3. Tough matchup, trying to avoid falling to 1-4. Hillbillies versus Disco. Both of those guys getting their first win this week. Tough week for this matchup for you guys because you're both going to be now 1-3. One of you will be guaranteed to drop to 1-4. Big matchup for you guys this week. That'll be an interesting one to watch because 1-4 is going to be a tough spot to be in going forward. Another battle of 2-2s. We got Saquon versus Ed Logger. That'll be a good one. And then Possum Magic, undefeated, versus Gags. He's trying to knock Gags to 1-4. And currently, heavily favored. So we'll see if Gags can pull a rabbit out of his hat this week and maybe get a victory over Possum Magic. But yeah, it's going to be tough. The teams who are trying to claw their way back into it, got tough matchups here. So said Hillbillies versus Dub C. One of you will definitely be falling to 1-4. Gags got a tough matchup against one of the top teams. Shawshank going up against one of the top teams. The Topes going up against one of the top teams here. But anything can happen. It's going to be tough. Basically, unless you're Detling, Disco, or Tree, you're worried right now for the state of your season here. So it's been a tough season for a lot of us here so far. As you can tell when you look at the standings here, how those three guys at the top are so far ahead already of the guys at the bottom here. So because Yinzer Jags will be 3-1. Still, you'll be only a game behind. Like all those 2-2s, only a game behind you, but then 2 games ahead of all the other guys. So there will definitely be at least one 1-4 team after this week. So yeah, I don't want to not get into the matchups this week too much. But I said there might be a baby coming this week, so it's very possible that there is no podcast this week. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, basically, this quickly sum up Week 5. Looking forward in a nutshell. The teams near the bottom who are trying to fight and scrap their way back into contention got a lot of difficult matchups here coming up in Week 5. So we will see how things play out, if things continue to separate even more, or if we start to get a little bit more jumbled up there in terms of the standings here. So so we're gonna have. We got a long way to go, obviously, but Possum and Disco both at 4 wins already. Yinzer Jags is going to be 3-1. It's hard to say that those. Don't want to go too far ahead of us of where we're at. Ahead of ourselves right now. But two guys 4-0. Said Yinzer Jags 3-1. Basically, the point I'm trying to make is those 3 guys, their probability of making the playoffs right now is pretty high. I would probably I would say 75%, unless something just absolutely falls apart for them. You're already, Possum and Disco already halfway to a playoff spot with 10 weeks left to go in the regular season, So 4 weeks down, 10, we got 14 weeks this year, so we got 10 you only need 5 to win half your games the rest of the way to make a playoff spot. So that's half the playoff spots, most likely already being claimed. So that means the rest of us, all 9 of the rest of us, are going to be fighting for those last 3 spots. So these next couple weeks are going to be really important in terms of those bottom teams. Can they kind of bring things back? Said only 6 of us can make it, and half of us are already kind of determined. Said not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but got to start thinking down the line how things going to play out. Said 6 teams are not going to make the playoffs, and so that's only said. But 9 of us are fighting for those. Currently, 9 of us are definitely fighting for those 3 spots. Is basically what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, and that's why this week coming up is going to be important. Like I said, and the matchups are just not good for those teams trying to claw their way back. Thanks, Jay, for shuffling the schedule like this. But anyway, said yeah, Gag's going up against Possum, Shawshank against Disco, Topes versus Ginger Jags. Those guys, those teams got to get wins this week somehow, or they are going to be in a really tough spot to try and fight their way back. It's going to be said to fight for basically those. That's the way I'm already looking at it as someone who is down near the bottom and trying to fight their way up. I'm basically already taking for granted that those top 3 playoff spots are going to be basically going to those 3 guys, unless something crazy happens, which anything could. But yeah, from my perspective, at least just I don't know how everybody else feels about it, but yeah, that's the way I'm looking at it so far already. Is that we're basically fighting for those last 3 playoff spots after 4 weeks. Yinzer Jags, Possum Magic, and Disco have basically separated themselves from the pack, which means the rest of us, 9 teams currently, are going to be fighting for those only 3 spots. So we all want to get them. 6 of us are going to go home disappointed, as we all do this every year after the regular season here. So hopefully things continue to get more clustered and muddled up in the middle there. You don't want teams getting so far, a whole bunch of teams getting so far out of it so early, quickly in the season, and then just kind of putting it on cruise control and not really caring about what happens the rest of the way. Maybe not giving it their full 100% effort. I think most people, I think everybody in the league, though, even once they're eliminated from playoff contention, they still play their teams. Nobody takes it off, still puts up, does what they can, what they need to do, tries to be competitive, maybe take somebody else down with you, play a spoiler there. So, yeah. Fortunately, we're in a league where no one just gives up and quits at any point in the season there. So kudos to all of you guys for that kind of stuff. Whew. I've said it before, it's a lot of talking for me. So this is probably my week's worth. Today, it's currently Monday night. I've probably spoken as much in the last 58 minutes there as I will speak for the entirety of the rest of this week. That's usually how it goes until you guys interrupt me again here with my book club, my one-man book club next week here. So, so much for getting a new shtick, getting harassed by the podcasters. I guess they don't like what's been going on, trying to expand my horizons, widen my knowledge, open my mind. Maybe you guys need to open your minds a little bit. Maybe pop open a book every once in a while. But anyway, all right. Oh, there's one last thing I wanted to talk about is whenever I was kind of talking about Davante Adams kind of being a disappointment so far this year, at least for me, I said my top 2 picks, Adams and Ridley. As my team's going to go. But just really looking at the first round of our draft picks, Christian McCaffrey, I mean, he was solid, but now he's hurt. Adams really underperforming. Dalvin Cook's been hurt. He's been underperforming. Kamara, underperforming, definitely. Tyreek, obviously, perhaps the best pick of the first round so far as the season's played out. Although, I mean, he's scored. Said he had 40, then 6, then 9, and then 50. So he's extremely inconsistent. Derrick Henry, probably the best. He would probably be the best first round pick, I would say, behind probably right. Tyreek would be right after him in terms of Derrick Henry's been consistent every single week. Hopkins has been inconsistent. Chubb, probably just less than you were hoping for. Kelsey, not too bad. Najee Harris, not too bad. He's getting a lot of points from catches and stuff like that. Pretty good there. Aaron Jones has been not bad, but not, I wouldn't say great. He had one big week. Keenan Allen, not too bad. But yeah, a lot of these first round picks have underperformed, I would say. Most of them, at least so far here, going in, at least underperformed or missed some time, things like that. Going through the season. And obviously, said Disco, he's thriving from Tyreek there. Who else? Possum Magic, Chubb. So Possum Magic, and who else is at the top? Yinzer Jags there. DeAndre Hopkins. He hasn't been great, but he's been solid. But DJ Moore has been the one who's been picking it up for you there. I think it's kind of panned out so far, at least too. Like, at least for me, I really thought this whole draft was a struggle this year, just because not only did you guys insist that we keep the keeper total at 3, a lot of people just had a lot of good players as keepers. I mean, Possum Magic, he had McLaurin and who's his other? Diggs. You're starting out with Diggs and McLaurin. So you could, obviously, you went running backs, the best available running backs with your draft picks there, and could basically, and not only did you have those two guys, they're performing well. You know, they're doing it for you. They're bringing what you needed here, which only makes your team even stronger. But yeah, there were so many like top 30 picks that were keepers this year. It made, and I didn't have them. I know that for sure. Although Ridley has definitely been a disappointment, but just the draft and the teams in general this year, I didn't feel like it was going to be a real challenge to put together a competitive team this year. And that's kind of the way that this played out so far. I'm not going to say already that this is a lost season. I think, just from my perspective, real briefly, tried to stack those wide receivers. Thought there was going to be a good, not even a trio, 4 or 5 good starting right between Devontae, Ridley, Deontay, and Higgins. Be starting all those guys and hopefully was able to snag a few running backs, try to see hopefully at least one of them pans out, but they haven't really done too much here so far. But yeah, so we got 10 weeks to go. We got a long way to go here yet in the regular season. But yeah, I just wanted to say that like this draft was just trying to put together, and I think a lot of you were out. I said, as the defending champ, winning it last year, probably had a target on my back too. A lot of you guys looking to take me down, making good picks, doing stuff, trying to take away things that you thought maybe I would want. And I know several of you did that. I wanted Buffalo's defense. Things happened in there. I tried to set it up with those extra draft picks early on that I traded Jim for, Aaron Jones for, to try to be able to, I was really hoping to snag then. So I wanted to stack, as you guys know, I wanted to stack Aaron Rodgers with Devontae. Then Jay comes out of nowhere and picks Aaron Rodgers, even though he's already got Dak in. So I'm looking at the draft results actually right here. Round 4, Jay picks Aaron Rodgers. And I think I was 4 or 5 picks after that, ready to draft Aaron Rodgers. And that just like threw me off for like the rest of the entire draft. And I also then a little bit later wanted to draft wanted the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense. Like that's who I want to get. And I kind of just sat there and didn't say anything because I traded away my 5th-round pick to Jim and knew that I was not going to be able to pick there until, so looking at the draft results here, until the end of round 6. So just sitting there kind of quietly, hoping and praying that the Tampa Bay defense slides down here and I can pick them up there at the end of round 6. And right at the beginning of round 6, 3rd pick, round 6, Kevin Bean, he's like, this is usually when the run starts on defenses. Traditionally, this is when the run starts on defenses. So instead of just not saying anything, this is when the run usually starts. But I'm going to go ahead and start it. So I'm going to go ahead and start it myself. And picks as soon as you said that. I don't think that you listen. I don't know that you listen to these or not. But like as soon as you said those words came out of your mouth, I'm like, God damn it, Kevin. Because as soon as those words came out of your mouth, I knew I wasn't getting Tampa Bay's defense. And even though you picked Washington's defense, I knew there was no way because you started as you. I mean, you could have just not said anything. I think everybody kind of knows that that's when traditionally defenses start to go, but it might not have happened if you didn't do it. So yeah. Just as soon as you said those words, I was just fuming inside. Like why did you have to say that? And why did you? So even before you made the pick, just as those words are coming out of your mouth, I'm just like, oh, God damn it, Kevin. And said didn't get them. For some reason, I was like, okay, well, I'll just wait a little bit and I'll get Buffalo's defense again this year. And Gags snagged them in round 11 there. So probably should have, I guess if I wanted them, I should have taken them sooner. Probably could have done it in rounds 10 or earlier in 11 there. But yeah, ended up kind of getting whoever I could get. Went with Miami. They've been disappointed. For some reason, I just can't pick defenses. I don't know what it is every year. I got lucky with Buffalo last year. But for some reason, for the most part, every year, I just can't hit on the defenses that I pick. And the trend continues this year. But yeah. Said after I think I said before in the lineup too, like right after the draft, was not happy with my team and how things played out. You guys made it really difficult this year. I said a lot of people, just so many people have good keepers that it was going to make it really hard to put together a team that can compete with some of you guys based on what you're already starting with, you know. And so far this year, that's kind of a little bit the way that it is played out. So, but anything can happen. So I'll forever the optimist. I will still believe that my team has a chance until they absolutely do not here. So, all right, enough about. Oh, geez, we're already over an hour here. So well over an hour. So I've been going on and on way too much. That's the end of week 4. Let me see because I've talked enough that the game should be over by now, and final results should be in. Yeah, the Chargers beat the Raiders 28-14. So, yeah. Yinzer Jags actually got, let's see, Eckler ended up with 32.5 points. Wow. Gave you a solid run there. Pumped up your point total there. Yins or Jags, keeping you separated from the other guys. A lot of the other guys there still, even though you lost, you put up a pretty good score here. So yeah, nothing really changed from the scores I gave you earlier in the review here. So yeah, CMC Music Factory will be the team that is eliminated from the knockout pool this week. Yeah, and going forward, looking week 5, we're gonna have a lot of tough matchups for those bottom teams who are trying to climb their way back up. So it's gonna be, as always, fun to watch. Yeah, hopefully this week coming up, all your guys, no one gets hurt, and all of your players meet or exceed expectations. And we are back here next week talking about what happened in week 5. So whether you watch or listen or whatever it is you do, thank you, and we will see you back here next week to talk about what happened after you interrupt my one-man book club. All right, guys, this has been way too long already. I'm gonna have to go get some water, drink some water, because my throat is gonna start hurting because this is not what I do. All right, guys. Again, thank you, and we'll see you back here next week. Bye.